Good morning, everyone. So we started the last chapter of our syllabus, multiprocessor configuration. We have completed with the fifth lesson in the last week, which was I/O configuration. So we have learned about the I/O system and the I/O interfaces of the computer system. In that, we had seen three different modes of transfers which are being used by the I/O system in the computer: programmed I/O, interrupt-driven I/O, and DMA. Out of which, if I want to select any one, we always go for DMA, that is direct memory access, where we subtract the involvement of the CPU in the computer system and we directly use the DMA controller for the operation. Then if I compare program IO and interrupt driven IO, we always prefer using interrupt driven IO because we avoid the CPU wastage time which is happening in the programmed IO. We had also seen that program IO is divided into two types, the memory mapped IO and IO mapped IO. In memory mapped IO, all your memory and IO operations are performed by using same read and write operation, whereas in IO mapped IO, we have separate lines for read and write operation with IO devices and separate read and write lines with respect to memory devices. So now in the sixth lesson, which is multiprocessor configuration, we'll be learning about the technique called as Flynn's classification, pipelining, and bus arbitration. So before we start, let us first say or talk about what is multiprocessing. Does any one of you know what is multiprocessing or what is multiprocessor? Any one of you can put your mic on and just give the answer.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Nishit.
Ma'am, it is using all the processor cores, multiple cores of processor.
Yes, it is using multiple cores of the processor. So how can I differentiate between multi-computer and multiprocessor? Any one of you?
Ma'am, it has multiple cores in multiprocessor. In
Hmm.
multi-computer, there are different processors.
Then what is the difference in multiprocessor and multi-computer?
The whole processor is different. There are multiple processors. In this only there are multiple cores.
No. Multi-computer means what? We are having more than one computer where every computer has its own operating system. Whereas when I talk about multiprocessor, there's one system with one operating system, and inside that, the processor has its multiple cores. So that is a difference in multiprocessor and computers. When I say multi-computer, it is more than one computer. Every computer has its own processor, has its own operating system. But when I say multiprocessor, it is one computer system with one operating system and multiple cores of the processor. So multiprocessor is divided into different classification. Can you see the book, page number 656? Is that screen visible? At least say yes or no. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
If you cannot see, you can open the book which is there at your end. So if you see the Flynn's classification, Flynn's is a person who has designed this classification. And what does that classification say? That your architecture of computer can be divided based on the instructions and the data stream. Now, what do you mean by data stream? Data stream is nothing but the data line on which your data is going to get transmitted between different components of computer. So when I say different components of computer, it means your memory unit, your control unit, and your CPU, which is processing unit. So all the transfer of the data from control unit to memory unit and from memory unit to processing unit will be done by your data stream. That is nothing but the data line. What is going to get transmitted on these data stream is the data. But data of what? The instruction that a user provides. So when I write a program, my program is nothing but the set of instructions. These instructions will be divided and then it will be given on this data stream. So every instruction which is stored at the memory location will be divided into operand and opcodes, which you are aware of. So when I break the instruction, I have a operand and I have a opcode. So the data of the operand and the data of the opcode of this entire instruction will be traveling on this data line, which is the data stream. Where it will travel from control unit to processing unit and to memory unit. Once the processing unit completes its execution with respect to that instruction, it will store the data into memory unit or it will display to the user and complete the execution. So what are the four classification that Flynn's has developed is, first is SISD. What does that stand for? Single instruction, single data. Second is SIMD, single instruction, multiple data. Next is MISD, multiple instruction, single data. And the last is MIMD, which is multiple instruction, multiple data. So let us see the first one, single instruction, single data. Now, what do you understand by single instruction, single data? At a time, only one instruction will be executed, and there will be only single data. That means only single data stream on which the instruction will flow. So look at the diagram 6.5, where I have three units. One is control unit, one is processing unit, and one is memory unit. Okay. Now, if you see, the instruction is flowing from control unit to processing unit. Then you have a data stream which is bidirectional, and then from memory unit it is going out either for the storage or for the user as the output display. Now, in between this control unit and processing unit, there is an instruction, and in between processing unit and memory unit, there is a data stream. So what is it? It is a single instruction, single data. So a program written by a user goes to the computer. Computer will divide that program into single instructions. For example, if I'm writing a program to add a two number, what will be the first line of a program to move the number from one memory location to another memory location? So if I've written first instruction as move a comma b, so whatever data is there in b will get loaded into a. Then I write second instruction move b comma c. Whatever is there in b will now be moved into c. Then I write an instruction add a plus b. So it will add the contents of a, add the contents of b, and then fourth instruction will be store the result, that is store c. So it will, whatever addition is done between the number a and b, that addition will be stored in c, and then the program will get end. So the 5 lines of program is divided into 5 different instructions. First two instructions were to move, third instruction was to add, fourth instruction was to store, and fifth instruction was to end the program. So what is happening when all these instructions or entire program is going into SISD? First, it will be executing only move a comma b. So though I have given 5 instruction at a time, but this SISD will take only one instruction, that is move a comma b. That instruction will first go into control unit. Control unit will read the instruction. It will take from memory, from wherever it wants, it will take that. It will give that instruction to the processing unit, that is the CPU for the execution. After the CPU has executed, now it is time to display that data or a result to the user, as well as to store it into the memory. So at that time, I'm going to make use of a data stream. So what will the data stream do? Whatever calculation or execution the processor has done, it will be taking that data on the data stream line, that is nothing but the data transfer line, and it will transfer that result and store it into the memory unit, and as well as it will display it to the user on the screen. Once that process has been completed, it will again pick the next instruction for the execution, again give it to the control unit. Control unit will pass to the processing unit. Processing unit will again complete the execution, put the result on the data stream, that is nothing but the data line, which will store the data into the memory unit, as well as give the output to the user on the user screen, and again pick the next instruction. So this process will be continuing until all the instruction of that particular program is being completed. So can I achieve parallelism over here? No. Why? Because I'm taking only one instruction at a time. Why? Because the classification or the first computer was of SISD, where it can take only single instruction and can execute only single data. Therefore, I cannot achieve parallelism in case of SISD. Is this understood?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Okay. So let us see the next now, SIMD, which says it is single instruction, multiple data stream. I am executing single instruction, but again that instruction will be subdivided and executed simultaneously to get or to achieve the output in much less amount of time as compared to SISD. What was happening in SISD? A key instruction was going to a processor. That instruction was only executed and it was not going. Just a minute, huh? I'm getting a call. So what was happening in single instruction, single data, that only one instruction, which was taking so much of time to display the output, will now take a less amount of time to display the output in case of SIMD. Why? Because what am I doing in SIMD? Though my instruction is one, but I am going to transfer that instruction through multiple data stream. Therefore, it is called as single instruction, multiple data. So now if you observe the diagram, what is there? We have a control unit. What is the function of a control unit? To take the instruction and give it to the processing unit. So can you see the processing element number 1 till processing element number n? So I have n number of processing units. Okay, so those n number of processing units are nothing but different core of your processors. Okay, after that, if you see, your main memory unit is divided into multiple local memories, and all that local memories are connected to multiple data stream. So in between each processor core and a main memory or a local memory, you have a different data stream. So if you have 5 processing cores, you will have 5 memory with 5 different data stream, which was not happening in case of SISD. It was only one data stream. So now when I give an instruction move A comma B to a control unit will divide this move A comma B to multiple processors. Will divide this move A comma B means what? One will read B, one will read the data from B, one will only use for copying the data into A, third will be used for storing the data into A. So move A comma B will be now dividing into 3 sub instruction, where one processor will only read the contents of B, second processor will do actual transfer of contents from B to A, and third will actually store the contents of B into A. Okay, so these 3 functions or these 3 sub instructions will now be performed by different processing elements, and through different data lines they will be stored into different local memories, and then they will be displayed as output to the user. So since I am dividing an instruction into sub instruction and making each instruction sub instruction working in parallel, so I am achieving the output in much less amount of time as compared to that of SISD. Is this clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
ma'am.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
if I compare SISD and SIMD, what is happening in both the cases? You have single instruction only which is executed. But what is the advantage of using SIMD is that in SIMD, I am dividing a main one instruction into sub instruction and achieving the parallelism by executing those sub instruction simultaneously. Whereas I am not using any concept of parallelism when it is SISD. Okay. Let us see the next type of classification, which was MISD. Now, what does this MISD say? It is multiple instruction, single data. So now again, I am going to have a much higher speed in terms of execution as compared to SIMD. Why? Because in SIMD it was only SI, that is single instruction, whereas in MI I am having multiple instruction. So multiple instructions will be executed, but all those instruction execution will be done by using only a single data stream. Why? Because it is MISD. So SD is for single data stream. So now let us look into the diagram. Now if you compare this diagram MISD, I have one control unit, n number of control units. Okay, control unit 1, control unit 2, and so on. I have n number of processing units, processing number 1, number 2, and so on. I have memory, program, and data. I have IO system. I have instructions going from control unit to processing unit. But if you see in the diagram, you will have only one data stream. Okay, one data stream which is going from processing unit, coming out of the processing unit, and going and storing the data into the memory, program, and data. So your data stream is only one, therefore it is called as single data stream, multiple instruction. Why it is multiple instruction? Because if you see in the diagram, who is giving you the instructions are given by the control unit every time. Let it be SISD or let it be SIMD, your instructions are coming from control unit. Control unit is passing the instruction to whom? It is passing the instruction to processing elements. What was happening in the previous 2 type of classification? In the first one instruction was going directly to processing unit. In second, that one instruction was getting divided into sub instruction and then it was going to processing elements. But what is happening over here in MISD is that 3 separate instructions or more than one instructions will be given to the processing unit. So control unit will give one instruction, that is suppose move A comma B. Control unit 2 will give the next instruction, that is move B comma C. Control unit N will give the third instruction, that is add A comma B. So at a time, I am executing move A comma B also, move B comma C also, as well as add A comma B also. But what is happening at a time when the output is getting displayed to the user and when it is getting stored into the memory, at that time I'm using only one data stream. So up till the execution, my work is going fast. And I'm achieving parallelism by executing multiple instructions. But after the execution is done, when my result is getting stored in the memory and when the result is displayed to the as an output to the user, at that time that process is little delayed. Why it is delayed? Because I'm using again a single data stream. So up till the execution, my work is faster and I'm achieving parallelism because of multiple instruction getting executed. But after that, since I am having only one data stream, so the process of storing the data into the memory and giving the output to the user becomes slow. So to avoid this, the Flynn started with the last classification, that was multiple instruction, multiple data stream, which means what? N number of instructions can be executed and they can be transferred to the respective memory as well as to the user by using multiple data stream. So if you see, you have N number of control units, you have N number of processing unit, but the memory is shared. Why the memory is shared? Because when I'm telling that a result is getting stored in the memory, I cannot divide my memory into different units, because if I divide it into different units, then I cannot have different data stream. So to keep multiple data stream, I have to keep the memory which is shared between all the between all the processing units and between all the control units. So if you see in the diagram, the first is you are getting the instructions from control unit. The instructions are passed to the processing unit. Processing unit will pass to the data stream, that is after the execution, the respective your processing unit will transfer after the execution is done, your processing unit will put the data on the respective data stream. That data stream will put it on the shared memory as well as it will give it to the user as the output. So if you see, you have n number of instructions, which is nothing but multiple instructions, and if you can see, there are multiple data stream, which is nothing but MD. So your instructions are executed faster, and the disadvantage which was there in MISD, the delay part at the data stream, will now be overcome because you have multiple data stream. Okay, are these all four classification clear to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so what is happening in SISD? Single instruction, no parallelism, execution is slow. So to make it little more faster or to achieve the parallelism, we started executing the same single instruction but putting it on the different data streams. Again, the procedure was little slow, so we started using multiple instructions, execution of more than one instruction. So before, up till the execution, the communication was faster or the process was faster, and your storing into the memory and output was little delay. But to overcome all the problems which are there in all the previous three classification, we started using MIMD, where I am using multiple execution of multiple instruction on the multiple data stream, which is making my processor and the core of processor much faster. Therefore, it is called as multi-processors. So the difference in computer and processor is you have more than one computer, whereas in processor, if you can see this processing unit 1, processing unit 2, the system is only one. The components of system are divided into different units to make it multiple. Therefore, it is called as multi-processors. And how you are achieving that multi-processing system is by using either SISD, SIMD, MISD or MIMD. Okay, is this clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now let us go for the next topic, which is pipelining. Now what does pipeline mean? You are executing more than one instruction in a very faster way by dividing that instruction, either a single instruction into sub-instruction or entire program into multiple instruction. That is what is called as pipelining. So what you are doing is, if you see the diagram 6.14, a 4-stage pipeline process. 4-stage pipeline process means what? In order to complete a one single task, what am I doing? I'm using 4 machines: machine 1, machine 2, machine 3, machine 4, and I'm executing the task on all these 4 machines simultaneously to an in pipeline procedure or in parallelism procedure. Therefore, it is called as pipelining. Now, if suppose this is not clear to you, this will get clear to you when we do the next diagram. So just remember in this diagram what is done, that there's a one task. That one task is divided into 4 different stages, and that 4 different stages are given to 4 different machines for execution. So if I have a program, for example, designing a calculator now, and I have decided that that calculator will perform addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. So what will I do is, if I execute entire program, it will take much time. But if I want, I can divide this entire task into 4 different tasks. Like addition will be done by machine 1, subtraction will be done by machine 2, multiplication will be done by machine 3, and division will be done by machine 4. But they will be operating in such a way that when it comes to the user end, it is assumed that it is only one system who is executing and giving the output. But what I have done is, I have connected those 4 systems and I have designed it in a pipeline form. So because of that pipeline infrastructure, it has been assumed to the user that the output is coming only from a single machine. Now, how this is done, that we'll be seeing in this diagram. Okay, so we have your program divided into different time slots. Okay, can you see this time here? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. These are nothing but the time. Okay, now on the x-axis you have time, on the y-axis you have different tasks: task 1, task 2, task 3, task 4, and task 5. What is happening? Your task 1 is divided into 1, 2, 3, 4. 2 is also divided into 4, 3 into 4, 4 into 4, and 5 into 4. Now, if you see, at every task or at every time, there are different things which are happening. At time 0 to 1, task 1 of 1 is getting executed. In time 1 to 2, task 2 of 1 and 1 of 2 is getting executed. In time 2 to 3, 3 of 1, 2 of 2, and 1 of 3 is executing. So what am I doing here is, I have started the execution of all the 4 separate tasks and the subtask of it based on the different timings. So when I do this all on different timings with respect to different tasks, I can achieve that pipeline. Okay, now to make this thing more clear, let us see this diagram. Instruction pipeline. Now, how I can achieve this pipeline thing of task 1 and 2? By using this concept of instruction pipelining. Now, what is happening? Your instruction which goes for the system for execution, it will be getting executed in a sequence. What kind of sequence? First, there will be an instruction fetch, then an instruction will be decoded, then the address of your operand will be generated, then your operand will be fetched, then the instruction will be executed, then the result of that instruction execution will be returned, and your program counter will be updated. Now, what is program counter? The one which points to the next instruction after your previous instruction execution is completed. Okay, so when I have an instruction move a comma b, this instruction move a comma b is divided into these 7 sub tasks. Okay, so what was my task 1? My task 1 was to execute an instruction move a comma b. To execute that move a comma b, what did I do? I divided into 7 tasks. So the 1, 2, 3, 4 which you can see on different timings are nothing but these 7 steps. So from move comma a, first what will happen? In first cycle, it will fetch move a comma b. In second, it will decode what is a, what is b, what is mov. Okay. In third, it will generate the address that where is this move a comma b at memory location 3000 or at 4000 or at 5000, wherever it is, it will take that location. In the next, once the opcode is once when your opcode part is completed, it will take the operand part. That is, now you are well aware about what is opcode and operand. When I say move a comma b, your move is opcode, a comma b is operand. Okay, so in the first three steps, sorry, first step instruction is executed. In second step, it is decoding. What is the decoding doing? That what is operand, what is opcode, it is separating. After that, it is taking the address of the operand. Address of the operand means where that locate, where is, what is the value of A and where is that value A located? What is the value of B? Where is the value of B located? So it is taking the address. After that, once the address has been found, it will go and fetch that ऑपरैंड. दैट मीन्स इट विल टेक ए के पास जो 5 स्टोर है इट विल टेक दैट 5, बी के पास जो 3 स्टोर है इट विल टेक दैट 3. आफ्टर दैट इन द फिफ्थ स्टेप द इंस्ट्रक्शन विल बी एग्जीक्यूटेड. व्हाट इज द इंस्ट्रक्शन? ऐड करना है 5 और 3 को, सो इट विल ऐड 5 + 3 = 8. After that 8 is being executed, it will write that 8 somewhere. Where it has to be written, the program says that it has to be written in the register C. So it will go to the C and it will write the value 8 into C. After that it will update the program counter to the next instruction, that is end. So this is how your pipeline is achieved. So when I say your move A comma B is divided into 1 2 3 4 5 6 7, so all these 7 things are happening in simultaneously but at different time slots, therefore it is called as parallelism. Okay, or if it is, therefore it is called as pipelining. When your instruction is fetched at that same time, you can decode also, you can generate your address also, you can fetch your operand also, and once all these 4 are achieved, you can start executing, and once the execution is done, you write and you update the program counter. So if you see, your instruction fetch is denoted as FI. The instruction fetch which was there here is denoted by FI. Decoding and address calculation is denoted as DA. Fetching of the operand is denoted as FO, and execution and writing the result is denoted as EX. So how do I write them? For instruction 1, first timing, first step I will fetch, second step I will decode, next step I will fetch the operand, and the next I will execute. So when I'm decoding in the first instruction, at the same time I can fetch the second instruction also. When I am fetching the opcode of the first instruction, I can decode the address of the second instruction. When I'm executing the first instruction, I can fetch the operand of the second instruction, and then I can execute the second instruction. Again, when I'm decoding the second instruction, I can fetch the third instruction. When I'm fetching the operand of the second instruction, I can decode the third instruction. So this is how you can achieve the pipelining by using different time slots. So at the first time I am fetching, but at the second time when I am decoding some another instruction, I can also fetch some another instruction as well. So by this, execution of instruction happens faster, and I can achieve the parallelism by using this pipelining concept where I execute instructions on different steps at different timing units. Is this understood?
Yes, ma'am.
Any doubts? Anybody? Girls? Girls, are you all there?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So we have understood what is pipelining. We have seen what is instruction pipelining and how those instructions can be executed in the pipeline by using the 7 steps, that is fetching, decoding, address generation, operand fetch, execution, writing the result, and updating the program counter. Okay. So the next topic we'll be doing now is the last topic, bus arbitration. Now, what do we mean by bus arbitration? Now, if you have seen the system, what our system has, it has a control unit, it has different write lines, address lines, data lines, it has processing unit, it has memory unit, etc. Whichever instruction wants to execute, that instruction will take one bus, address bus, it will take one data bus, it will take one read line, it will take one write line, and it will execute. Now, if a second instruction wants to execute, second instruction has to take a read line, write line, address line, data line. So like this, if I have 100 instructions, all the 100 instructions has to take all the lines separately. So what is happening, whenever any particular controller or any particular devices who wants to access or who wants to execute any particular instruction, has to first request for the buses. Once that request is being given and the grant is being allocated, at that time the system will be given with the particular buses, and the system who had requested and who had got those devices will be considered as bus master. So what is bus arbitration? It is a process by which the current bus master accesses and leaves the control of the bus and passes it to the another requesting unit. So if I have two systems, say suppose system 1 and system 2. Now if a system 1 wants to execute a program, so what will that system 1 do? System 1 will first request for all the buses. Once the request is being granted, so the system who has requested will be considered as a bus master. He will complete all its execution and give that bus back to the system. So once that buses are given back to the system, now computer 2 will request for the buses. The buses will be granted to system 2, execution will be done, and it will put those buses back into the system again. Then after 2 has completed, 3 will take the, just a second. Okay, so like this, whichever system wants the buses, they request, the buses are given to them. Once their work is being completed, those buses are again taken back. So this procedure of taking the bus, giving the bus back is called as bus arbitration. And whichever unit request for the buses and use those bus and give them, put it back on the system, they are called as bus master. So the device which is using, or the computer which is using the bus, is called as master. Once that buses are returned, the device or the computer will be no longer called as master. Okay. We have three different bus arbitration techniques. First is daisy chaining, second is polling, and third is independent requesting. That means how will the computer system request for the buses and how will they get the buses? It depends on these three techniques. Either the system use the concept of daisy chaining for requesting and taking the system, or they make use of a concept called as polling for asking for the buses and taking the buses, or they may use a concept called as independent requesting. So let us first see what is the concept of daisy chaining. So if you see the diagram here, we have three master 1, master 2 and master n, which means what? We have three computers, computer 1, computer 2, computer 3. All these three computers are connected to the bus controller. Okay, you have four different lines. What are those four lines? One is bus grant line, which is going from bus controller to all the master, and other is bus request, bus busy, and data transfer bus. Now, what is the function of these data transfer bus? Whatever data is getting transmitted from one computer to another computer or from one computer to this bus controller will go via what? It will go via this data transfer bus. So if I want to transmit A is equal to 2 from machine 1 to machine 2, how it will be happening? Machine 1 will put the data A is equal to 2. It will go to this data transfer line. From the data transfer line, it will go and get copied into machine 2, which is master 2. Now if a master 2 wants to send something to master n, again it will put that data on the data transfer line, and through the same data transfer line it will be copied in the master n. So your data transfer bus is nothing but to carry the data from one device to another device, that is from one master to another master, or from one master to any of the bus controller. Okay, now you have three more lines, which is called as bus grant, bus request, and bus busy. Now, before this data transfer takes place, or if any machine who wants to transfer the data either to any other machine or to bus controller has to use this bus request and this bus grant and this bus busy before the data transfer happens. Okay, so like directly you cannot start the data transfer. You have to first request, then the bus will be granted, and then you can data transfer by using the data transfer bus. So what is happening? Let us see a scenario where a master 1 wants to send the data to master 2. So what will this master 1 do? Can you see the line connected to the master 1 connected to the line called as bus request? Master 1 is also connected to bus grant. Master 1 is also connected to the data transfer line. Again, your bus controller is connected to bus grant with master 1, with master 2 and master n. So what is this bus grant? The bus grant is a single line which is being given from the bus controller to each and every computer system. Now, when a master 1 wants to send the data to master 2, or if it wants to use any of the bus for the data transfer, it has to first request for the bus. So what line will be activated? The line called as bus request will be activated. So when I request for the bus, whom I am requesting it to the bus controller, because bus grant, bus request and bus busy, these three lines are controlled by whom? They are controlled by the bus controller. So whatever request I make by master 1, that request will go to the bus controller. Okay, so through this bus request line, the request will be given to the bus controller from master 1 to the bus controller. Now if the bus is free, it will grant that bus to master 1 through this bus grant line. So once if the request is made and if the bus is free, the bus will be given to that master. So once if the bus is given, then the master 1 can use this data transfer line and transfer the data to master 2. Now if master 2 wants to transmit, again master 2 will also request to the bus controller through this bus request line. Once that request reaches to the bus controller, again the bus controller will check whether the bus is busy or free. If it is busy, in previous case it was free, therefore bus was granted. But in second case, now if the bus is busy, what will this controller do? It will generate this bus busy line. To whom it will generate? It will generate this bus busy line to master 2. So when it generates this bus busy line to master 2, what does master 2 indicate? That the bus is not free and I cannot perform the data transfer now. Hence I have to wait for some time and recheck or re-request again to the bus controller. So what will the master 2 do? It will wait for some time. Again, it will send a bus request. That bus request will reach to bus controller. Again, the bus controller will check whether the bus is busy or not. So if the bus is free, it will again grant the bus to the master 2. Master 2 will use this data transfer line and transfer the data. Okay, so whichever device is using the bus, that particular device will be considered as master. So if the bus is now given to master 1 or to computer 1, it will be called as master 1. But if the bus is being given to computer 2, your 1 and 3 will not be called as master. Your master device will be only the device which has the bus control. Okay, is this understood?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so what was this concept? Whenever any devices wants to transfer any data, they have to use the bus. So to use the bus, they have to first request to the bus controller. Why to the bus controller? Because bus controller is a unit who is controlling all the three buses, that is the request line, busy line and the grant line. So if that bus is free, it will give that data transfer bus to that particular device. If it is not free, it will say that the bus is not free, you have to wait for some time and re-request again. So this concept is called as daisy chaining. Okay, is this understood?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now I at 11:30 I have my exam of MTech. So I am leaving you early today and we'll complete with the remaining two concept, that is polling and independent requesting, tomorrow. Okay. So your polling and your independent requesting, both of these techniques will be done tomorrow. And with that, we will be finishing our syllabus. Okay. So is that understood whatever has been taught to you today?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
All the 4 types of lens classification and instruction
Yes, ma'am.
pipelining. Okay. Give your attendance. Faizan,
Present, ma'am.
Hamza, Muzammil,
Present, ma'am.
Tahir,
Present.
Leeraj,
Present, ma'am.
Om,
Present, ma'am.
Yash,
Present, ma'am.
Samarth,
Present, ma'am.
Devang, Devang, Reva,
Present, ma'am.
Soham,
Present, ma'am.
Jonathan,
Present, ma'am.
Sakshi,
Present, ma'am.
Om, Mrudul,
Present, ma'am.
Ashna,
Present, ma'am.
Dhruv,
Present, ma'am.
Sanika, present. Mayuri,
Present, ma'am.
Ritesh,
Present, ma'am.
Hiteshi,
Present, ma'am.
Aditya,
Present, ma'am.
Prayag,
Present, ma'am.
Moez, absent. Akash,
Present, ma'am.
Sonia,
Present, ma'am.
Dishang,
Present, ma'am.
Aksh,
Present, ma'am.
Sahil, Nidhi,
Present, ma'am.
Pratham, present. Shlok, present. Devang, present. Drishti, Parth, absent. Pooja,
Present, ma'am.
Krishnam, Nirmal, absent. Pruthu,
Present, ma'am.
Harsh,
Present, ma'am.
Trisha,
Present, ma'am.
Kenneth,
Present, ma'am.
Vignesh,
Present, ma'am.
Jay, Nishit,
Present,
Parth, Varchil,
Present, ma'am.
Shakira,
Present, ma'am.
Taha, Disha, Arjun, absent. Prithvi, absent. Keval, Sushant,
Ma'am, Prithvi present.
okay. Sushant,
Hello, ma'am.
yes, Prithvi, I've marked you present. Dhruv,
Present, ma'am.
Kush, Rudra,
Present, ma'am.
Gayatri,
Present.
Gargi,
Present, ma'am.
Kavya, present. Nishant,
Present, ma'am.
Yash,
Present, ma'am.
Prem,
Present, ma'am.
Sharad, Shrey,
Present, ma'am.
Tanmay, absent. Naman, absent. Okay.
Hello, ma'am. Ma'am, I was present. Ma'am, I had a net issues.
Yeah, I saw you exiting the meeting, so I've marked you present. Don't worry.
Ma'am, you mark me present too, right?
Yes, Krush, you are also marked present.
Okay,
Parth
ma'am.
Patel. Parth Patel. Parth, what is your roll number? Where is Parth Patel? Parth Patel present. Okay. Okay. See you all tomorrow at the same time, according to timetable, and we'll finish the syllabus tomorrow. Okay.